I'll just announce the class, Guru Maharaj, with your permission. Hare Krishna, dear devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to our Guru Maharaj. Today, Guru Maharaj is going to enlighten us on a very important topic that is about Grhastha Ashram. Actually, we just finished the 3 classes on holy name, offenses towards holy name. So you can just listen to the recordings on Facebook or YouTube available online. So if you miss the class, Guru Maharaj is going to enlighten us on a very important topic today. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for your time and association today. You can please take over. Hare Krishna.
Umagyantimirandasya girajana salakaya chaksu unnaritam yena tasmai shri gurave namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namae. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Prastyatya De Satarine Vanchakalpa Tarubhascha Kripa Sindhuve Vajapatitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Saraswati Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. So I'd like to begin a series of talks on the Grhastha Ashram. I find that most devotees are either in that ashram or will enter into that ashram. So I think in order to facilitate some of the important principles that make up this ashram, it's I think essential that we make this a topic of discussion. It's quite vast and complex, and it contains a lot of different angles of vision according to how we approach it. But I'll get to the essence according to scripture. Essentially, ashram means place of spiritual cultivation. And there are 4 ashrams: brahmachari, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. And one should be involved in one of these 4 ashrams because this is the foundation for spiritual cultivation. And then this all goes along with the social system of Varna. Varna means the different swadharmas, the natural proclivities of the living entity in their essential education and birth, but both birth and education. They come to the point of understanding what is their nature and how they can use that nature in a visible activity. In other words, what you do in life. And of course, when we connect it with ashram, then it becomes daivi, varna and ashram, and that is using one's natural proclivities to serve the Lord in a particular ashram in devotion. And devotional service connected with both designated ashram and designated type of service. When one is situated there, they are rightly situated and can receive all the necessary knowledge and information needed to execute their responsibilities along with the mercy of the Lord, due to being rightly situated according to the Lord's natural system, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarna Mayasrisa Guna Karma Vibhaga Saha. He has actually set this system up. It's coming from him directly. So now we'll go into discussing the Grhastha Ashram, and we'll make a few points. I'm going to share the screen here. so you can all be with me on this discussion. As we said here, an ashram is a place where one takes shelter of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, the goal of all ashram is to take shelter of the Lord. Grhastha Ashram is Griha Stiti Ashram. In other words, a place where one is taking shelter of the Lord by staying in home, living with family members, but keeping the Lord in the center. All the four ashrams are equal in terms of importance that is given to the principle of taking ashraya. In other words, the importance is facilitated by taking shelter of the Lord. Here, performing devotional service is the only purpose of human life. There is no other purpose. Differentiation of ashrams based on strength of renunciation and livelihood. So there are different renunciations. The brahmacharis and sannyasis are symbols of renunciation and are meant to set examples to the grihasthas to follow. Grihasthas should also cultivate a spirit of renunciation that the other three ashrams have. But the cultivation of spirit of renunciation must not be external or simply artificial. So the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to the Kurma Brahmana, this is mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, be patient and return home. Don't be crazy, fellow. By and by, you'll be able to cross the ocean of material existence. You should not be a show bottle devotee and become a false renunciate. For the time being, enjoy the world in a befitting way, but do not get attached to it. So this is the principle of advancement. Learning how to use what is available given to you by Krishna to live nicely, happily, but in a spirit of detachment. Within your heart, you should keep yourself faithful and don't act like an ordinary person. Krishna will soon deliver you. A householder should take the principle of renunciation very seriously, but should not be a false renunciator. One show bottle means that which is simply external. Here, we're going into the Grhastha Ashram now. It nourishes, sustains, and preserves all the four ashrams. So the importance of Grhastha Ashram cannot be overestimated. By serving other ashrams and also the brahmanas within its own ashram, the Grhastha Ashram flourishes, prospers, and becomes nourished in the spiritual culture of Vedic civilization. So here it mentions that the Grhastha Ashram should be the nourishing, sustaining for all the other ashrams. It is through the Grhastha that Vedic and spiritual culture is best manifested to the society. And that's understood that one is living according to the rules and regulations of society and is showing exemplary standards for how to live in such a way as to fulfill one's material responsibilities and at the same time make regular progress on the path of devotional service. So here we get a little contrast between two kinds of householders. One is called the Grihamedi and the other one is called Grihastha. One who lives in home with husband and wife and children does not make one a Grihastha. Simply by living there with a husband or wife and children, that term Grihastha doesn't apply. A Grihamedi who lives externally simply for the enjoyment of the family in a Grihastha environment, but whose goal is life, is sense enjoyment. That's what a Grihamania, they enter Grihastha life or family life, not Grihastha life, but family life in order to enjoy. Here, a Grihastha, as opposed to a Grihamedi, is one who lives a God-centered life. But still, there may be some attachment to the material world. They're not completely renounced, but they're in a position to execute devotional service to the Lord and gradually sustain themselves in material life and at the same time make progress. So complete renunciation will come in due course of time if they follow the principles carefully. Let's see here. Husband and wife combine together in Christ to live together peacefully and serve each other very nicely. So here is a very important point. One should not think, well, my wife is my servant, or the wife should not think my husband is my servant. One should think that I am the servant of my husband. The husband should think I am the servant of my wife. And they serve according to religious principles or the rules that govern their relationship, and also provide material necessity in terms of the responsibility they have for the role they have as a husband and wife. However, if one is attracted to the opposite sex simply for sex enjoyment, that becomes a great impediment in spiritual progress. And this will impede one's progress in spiritual life. It's a glorious combination when the husband engages himself and his wife in devotional service. And it's a great example for others. The wife is faithful and religious according to Vedic injunctions. Here, this is a statement by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur that's mentioned in the 11th canto. It's included here. Having awakened faith in narrations of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities. No, this is Krishna speaking, I'm sorry. Having awakened faith in a narration of my glories, being disgusted with all material activities, knowing that all sense gratification leads to misery, but still being unable to renounce all sense enjoyment, my devotee remains happy and worships me with great faith and conviction. Even though he is sometimes engaged in sense enjoyment, my devotee knows that all sense gratification leads to miserable result, and he sincerely repents such activities. Now, this is not a statement for allowing sense enjoyment to go on. It means that one hasn't reached the stage of being able to renounce all forms of sense enjoyment. But they lament the fact that they fall into that activity occasionally. They still are glorifying the Lord. They understand the material world is a temporary place which facilitates various types of sufferings based on the struggle to live and enjoy. Knowing that, although unable to renounce, Krishna says, my devotee remains happy and worships me with great faith and conviction. So in due course of time, by cultivating this mentality, they will be able to develop complete detachment and renunciation. Here's a statement also from Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, 11th canto, 20th chapter, verses 27 and 28. Within the material world, the sex impulse is so strong that even a sincere candidate in loving service of the Lord may sometimes be disturbed by sex attraction, by lingering sentiments for wife and children. Although attached to material things one can clearly see that they lead to no good because they simply give trouble and disturb one's devotional service. Therefore, he sincerely repents his foolish attachment to material things and patiently waits for the Lord's mercy. So you see, living in the Grhastha Ashram is that, well, I can't renounce, so I should just enjoy as much as possible. And then when I get older, then I can give up all this and then become fully renounced. No, the consciousness of renunciation should be a cultivation within the mind and heart, although externally one may not have that manifested in the day-to-day life. And of course, if one is physically attracted to their partner, then this may also lead to a fall down in Krishna consciousness. Physical in the sense for sense enjoyment. One should develop affectionate and loving relationships in Grihastha life based on service to Krishna. That can be there. It's not that one has to live without emotions and be so detached that I remember I was in Vrindavan, and this was many, many years ago. And I was giving a Bhagavad Gita class in Srila Prabhupada's study room in Vrindavan. And at the end of the class, one lady who I had known, I had met her when I had come to her country. She came up to me and she wanted some help. She was married for about a year, but the marriage wasn't developing. What happened was, as she described it, my husband, he just wants me to cook for him. He simply wants me to wash his clothes and take care of all the external activities, but he doesn't spend any time with me. He doesn't hardly even talk to me. He's simply absorbed in reading and studying Chaitanya Charitamrita and other of Prabhupada's books. And he gives me hardly any or no attention. He simply wants me to carry out his necessity while he remains a pundit. So what kind of answer could I possibly come up with? Well, I basically said, I think you married a brahmachari. Or what I meant to say was, and which I did say, is that he wasn't ready for Grihastha life. He didn't understand that his duty in relationship to the responsibilities that he had in developing that relationship. And therefore, he thought his wife was simply going to take care of all his personal needs while he went on with his service, giving her no time and attention. So what could I offer? I would say, well, seems like you're in a difficult situation, because she described that he is so absorbed in the philosophy, in the books, that she can't even get his attention. I thought from a spiritual point of view, he should have stayed in the brahmachari ashram, or maybe even came to the point of applying for sannyas, but he wanted to have a wife so he could get all his material needs taken care of, and at the same time go on with his studies and preaching. So I didn't know really how to respond to that. And I said, well, just see what you can do to get advice from other grihasthas and see if you can help him understand that he has a responsibility beyond just studying the books. And she left, and then I saw her about a year later, and I said, well, what's the situation? She said, well, it's all over. The marriage broke up. So there's a person, not her, him, who wasn't ready to take on the responsibility of having a wife and acting in that ashram. So that's the extreme example on one side. And then you have the extreme example on the other side, where now I have a wife, now I have a husband, now we can enjoy like crazy. You know, now it's legal, it's not legal. And then what does that? Then the whole relationship starts to come down to a very materialistic relationship, and one sees each other as simply the object of one's sensual satisfaction. And then what happens is that one loses respect for the opposite, for one's partner. And when respect is lost, then everything goes down. And then one will simply see the other person as an object to fulfill my personal or my lusty desires, or even my personal needs. So that's the other extreme. So one has to learn according to rules and regulations, and we also receive premarital instructions. We also sometimes say premarital counseling before one enters into that ashram, in order to understand what is required in both the emotional, spiritual, and social needs, along with the the understanding of the responsibility that come with all of these different needs. So it's a great. Okay, we'll read on. The foremost duty of a Grihastha is to render service. The Grihastha to serve all the other 4 ashrams within its own ashram. It's described, the Grihastha ashram is like crossing over a hill because there are many obstacles. Duties and responsibilities can be painful at times, but this should not, dampen the spirit of detachment or sense of duty. And one has to learn to live harmoniously based on these principles. It's an ashram for sacrifice. It works for the benefit of everyone facing all sorts of circumstances. So Srila Prabhupada said in the Grihastha Ashram should give support to the brahmachari and the sannyas ashram by facilitating their needs and also performing providing material things for these 2 ashrams. Is a kind of sharing with consciousness that everything is owned by the Lord. Now, here's a very important part. We also hear very often people say, well, this is my husband, this is my wife, this is my home, this is my children, this is my car, this is my possessions. This is mine, the word mine, janasamoham yamaham mameti. I and mind. It's mentioned that there are 2 various types of material illusions. One is the eye illusion, and the other one is the mind illusion. The eye illusion is stronger. The mind illusion is subordinate to that, but both are forms of illusion. I am man, I am women, I am from this, I'm from this culture, I am this I. You just attach different names after the I principle. I am a sannyasi, I am a guru, I am a, continues to go on. Now this I principle is very strong in the human form of life. The mind principle is very strong in the lower forms of life, but it's also very also there in the human form of life. But the humans can recognize by understanding from Shastra that everything is the property of the Lord. Ishavasham vidam sarvam yak kinchit tam jagat jagat tena japtena bundi jaha magridaha kashiswadanam. So this verse from Sri Ishopanishad, which is verse 1, everything animate and inanimate is owned and controlled by the Supreme Lord. And one should live according to their quota. And one should know that everything belongs to the Lord. So the I and mind principle gets redirected or readdressed in the sense that everything is the property of the Lord, but the Lord has allowed me to use his property to a certain proportion according to my needs in order to keep body and soul together, which is fundamental to the execution of Krishna consciousness. So Krishna is very kind. He gives his property to his devotee to use very nicely. The materialists, they just steal it and then they try to enjoy it. Ravana stole Sita, but Ravana wound up being killed because he stole Sita. In other words, materialists are only cultivating their own demise when they try to enjoy the property of the Lord without the Lord. They can't enjoy it because it's not possible. It belongs to the Lord. But therefore, they do not pay their dues. What is their dues? They have to acknowledge that everything belongs to the Lord and I am the Lord's servant. And therefore, the Lord is giving me these objects so I can serve him nicely, and he's also giving me a portion that I can use for myself to live happily and cultivate both Krishna consciousness and a healthy life in this world. With that consciousness, one can live very happily. So one should be aware of this I and mind principle. It is simply the feature of the external energy, and it's not the reality. Everything belongs to Krishna because Krishna is the one who created it, but he shares it. Just like Prabhupada would use the example, you go into an art gallery and you see these lovely paintings on the wall. So these paintings were made by an artist, but you can share the happiness of enjoying the painting by your own, appreciation, your own glorification, but it belongs to the artist. He's sharing what he has with everyone else so they can also experience happiness in that sharing, but it belongs to him. So that's Krishna. Everything belongs to the Lord, but he shares it. Vedic culture, we said, is sharing and giving consciousness, and one should live according to a quota. Grhastha's main duty is to constantly chant the holy names of the Lord, serve Vaishnavas and the Supreme Lord, and with the help of one's relatives and wealth acquired through one's pious life. So here we get right to the main duty, to chant the holy names of the Lord, to serve the Vaishnavas and the Lord with the help of one's relatives and with one's opulences or wealth. Okay. So these are some principles of the Grhastha Ashram. The next category is deaths in Grhastha Ashram. I don't want to go into that. Continue this topic as a series of discussions that will continue for a few days or maybe even more, because at least I see it in the same way. I think that this is a very important topic that is not touched on enough. And we'll get into some of the dynamics of the relationships in the ashram as we go further into this topic. Okay, so I'll stop there. So based on what we discussed so far, or you may even extend your questions to other areas of this, but try to center it around what was so far discussed in today's presentation.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much for the wonderful class. I just want to summarize in a little bit what you said from this document, Guru Maharaj. So you just mentioned, you just chose a very important topic. Thank you so much for that, Guru Maharaj. And so you were telling about that Grhastha Ashram is a place which nourishes, sustains, and preserves all four ashramas and best of the society. And you talked about the difference between Grihamedi and Grihastha, and renunciation should be in the mind and heart. And the foremost duty of a Grihastha is to render service. And the main aspect is chanting the holy names and serving Vaishnavas. And also this ashrama is meant for sacrifice. So thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Very important points all. Thank you so much. So dear devotees, if you have any questions or comments or realizations, please go ahead. And I request everyone to please turn on your cameras so that it will be very nice to see all of you. Thank you so much. Sri Devi Mataji. You can please go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for starting this series on Grihastha life. Would you kindly tell us the appropriate age for each ashram? Because we see sometimes brahmacharis decide on brahmachari ashram, but then suddenly in their 30s, sometimes even in their 40s, even sometimes in 50s, they decide that now I want to get into Grihastha ashram. I don't think I can go on with brahmachari ashram. And then at 40 and 50, they're looking for a match. They're looking for a girl to marry. Then they have babies. By the time they are like 50, they're running around with a 5-year-old and things like that, which is time for Vanaprastha ashram. So would you kindly tell us what is the appropriate age for marriage for girls and boys, and how to conduct our life properly, nicely, so that we can progress spiritually to the goal of life?
Well, we are affected by the influence of this age of Kali. So things are not according to the Vedic standard. According to Vedic standard, the age for marriage for a man is 25 years old. The age of marriage for a girl is 16 years old, generally, or maybe 19, like that. So because there is, well, we can talk about this in a really long discussion, because if girls wait too long, then their minds get really restless, because they're being afflicted by their bodily needs, and there's no shelter. So sometimes they stay underneath the shelter of their parents. But generally for the man, it's around 25 years of age is maximum. A good dichotomy between age is the man should be about 5 years older than the girl. That is recommended also. And then it says that one should cultivate the ashram, produce children, and then when the children are grown up, and they also leave home and go on their own way in married life or in life in general, we might say. Well, they may join in, depends. In other words, then there is then one enters into the Vanaprastha ashram at the age of around 50, and then stays there, cultivates the spirit of renunciation, and of course that ashram needs to be defined more clearly. And that is being done now in our society. And then everyone is meant for renunciation in the later part of life. And that's done differently between the man and the woman. Because the latter part of life means complete focus on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that way one will be in a good position to go back home, back to Godhead. So yeah, stages of life you find are there. So that's mentioned in the Shastras. But using your, what we say, example of what is not right is that, yeah, because of lack of training and because of lack of shelter, then people try to stay free from this responsibility of married life until they get to the point where they realize it's not working. They're not able to renounce and live either as a brahmachari or develop as a sannyasi, and then they just extend that life. And then after some time, when they're in their 40s, they want to get married, which makes it very difficult to cultivate a proper Grhastha Ashram at that stage of life. So a girl around between 16 and 20, a boy between around 20, around 25, like that. And that's concessionary. If you hear Srila Prabhupada's statement, he talks about the actual Vedic culture where when a girl reaches puberty, she must be married. And that's usually around 11 or 12 years old. And that's how it was done in the Vedic culture. Prabhupada talks about his own mother, how when his sister was 12 years old and she was not married, she was haranguing her husband. Oh, the girl's her whole life is ruined. She's 12 years old and there's no husband. So that's actually Vedic culture that prevents the girl. Once the girl gets attached to a boy at that age, then she becomes fixed on him for life. But nowadays, people don't do that. They go shopping around for a long time. They can't find a relationship. There's no one to guide them and helping them. Or there is people to guide them, but they don't accept the guidance. They see how other people have failed in their married relationships, and therefore they think they want to prevent that. So they become very, 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 very selective in getting a husband or a wife. And sometimes because of that, it just goes on for years and years without anything happening. They refuse to take guidance from seniors, whether it's parents or the spiritual teachers. And therefore the whole world's topsy-turvy. The answer is taking guidance from seniors.
Hmm.
And now in some, and many, not so, well, I can't say many, but I'm not sure how many, but there is what we call the marriage program. I don't know what it's called, marriage what? Something where marriage what?
Matrimonial services?
Something like that. That's just a word, but it's more like those who want to get married, they come to this services and then they put their name in, and then they, when the girls and boys have their names listed there, that person tries to understand and help connect one with another so they can get to know each other and develop like that. So that's what we developed in our society. But in the strict Indian families, the parents still maintain control and direct the children to their husband or wife. That still goes on. But that's the traditional, that's being eroded by the effects of this age. Now we got Vrindavan Nath, who has 2 young children, and he has to think about this very carefully. Okay.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Vrindavanath Prabhuji, you can go.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, I have 2 questions, if I may. One related to the previous question, what Sridevi Mataji asked. As you mentioned that the right age for girls for marriage, as per Vedic culture, is 12 and 13 years, like that age. But in this society, when we talk about this kind of age and that kind of things, people may feel that we are taking them backward, and in this name of feminism and others, they feel like they don't want to promote children educations and anything. So how to really handle, and how Prabhupada handled, and did people change in Prabhupada time at that, like girls used to marry at that age and something like that?
Prabhupada got disgusted. He, when he began the society, he was arranging through his leaders for boys and girls to come together, and Prabhupada was doing the marriage ceremonies. Now, the reason he did that, he actually broke tradition, because for a sannyasi to facilitate or to officiate the marriage ceremonies is not the ashram of sannyas. They don't do that. But Prabhupada could see no one else could do it, and he wanted to give support to his new devotees who were coming in and help them in their getting married. So he did that for 3 years. And after the 3rd year, he said, I'm not going to do it anymore. You're not taking your vows seriously. And, devotees were coming in and out of the ashram like revolving doors. So then Prabhupada left it up to the senior devotees to take care of the responsibilities. Then when we started to make devotees from the Indian culture, it became a relief, because in the Indian culture, the responsibilities were still very much fixed on the parents. So it became easier, and we allowed the parents to match them up, basically like that. And that helped to some degree, but then again, that wasn't complete also. So, but senior advice, senior care, support is needed. But then you have 2 things. You have, will the children want that or take that? So people say, well, arranged marriages don't work. And others say that's true, but also not true in the absolute sense, but a lot of times arranged marriages fall apart. And then, but ones that are not arranged by the parents, they also fall apart. So it requires education and spiritual training prior to that. But the facility and the culture is not supportive. So Prabhupada wanted to establish that within ISKCON, the responsibilities that come with learning what it means to become a Grihastha. And so now in our society, we've set up educational systems for premarital persons so they can learn the responsibilities, the activities, the dynamics of the relationship according to religious principles. But it's one of the most difficult because, just like in London, we have one very senior Krishna conscious devotee. She's also written a book, which I'll delve into that book too. It's called The Four Duties of Household Life, something like that. Can't remember.
Four goals of married life, Guru Maharaj.
4 goals of married life, right? Yeah. I read that book, I studied it, and I also took notes on it, and I also distribute that notes to anyone who wants it. I have about 35, 40 pages of notes based on her book, but I would suggest you read the book. And, devotees come to her. I also send devotees to her to help them get connected with a maritable partner. But a lot of times, and I've seen, she also has great trouble connecting people because for some reason they don't like it or it doesn't work or it's like that. So the choice still falls upon those who are getting married to make the final decision whether I want to go with this person or not. But the education has to be there. Now we can speak a little bit more about this. For instance, what is the attracting force that is a stabilizing force that brings people together? It's not physical attraction. That's not stable, although it's a force that brings people together. It's not a stability. Because that wears off in due course of time. So the stabilizing force is that two people come together in order to serve Krishna together and make their life devotional service. That's the state. Krishna, there's one little small book. It's called The Third Partner. And that third partner is Krishna. So, yeah. So, you're going to be criticized if you try to marry the girls and boys girls at the age of 12 or 13. And the society doesn't support that type of lifestyle, even within Krishna consciousness. In a more ashram type of setting, that will work. But those who live outside of the ashram, it won't work. Because taking responsibility has to be there. And that responsibility doesn't necessarily come at such a young age. The reason why that young age was there is to stabilize their life in relationship to one particular partner and focus on that. And then as they grew up older, then they get together more in a formal way, live together, work together, serve together. But at 12 and 13, they don't live together. They still live with their parents, but they have a husband, they have a wife.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Yeah, so good luck. I wish you the best. But be very supportive in a very direct way in helping the children make the right decisions. That has to be there. They need parental guidance, parental support.
Yeah, it's a challenging task, Guru Maharaj. But yeah, at least information and knowledge is good. So maybe Krishna mercy.
Hmm.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, we can also take guidance and instructions for successful relationships. That's one of the best ways to evaluate how to proceed, and also get advice from such persons who have successfully entered into the Grhastha Ashram and are performing all the duties nicely. These are important examples for the rest of us.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, that's true. I think in the present society, one thing which I see compared to my parents and grandparents and now versus next generation, tolerance and sacrifice is really going down. People don't have tolerance for each other. They just expect everything in a very ideal manner and no feeling of sacrifice. So I think that's also,
Yeah, that's due to the age of Kali.
yeah. Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Ho.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Namrata Mataji, you want to go ahead?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your lotus feet, Maharaj. Maharaj, I was just thinking, there was a statement in the Grhastha manual that Grhastha works for the benefit of everyone, facing all sorts of circumstances. So I was just contemplating a little on this. Can you help me elaborate a little on this?
Well, this is from the principle of ideal arrangements, is that there might be, as it says in that same manual, it says, by serving in the form of using their wealth, they help the other ashrams. That's one way. So, in other words, they may also use their home to facilitate programs, like Prabhupada writes in the 3rd canto. It's a duty of the Grihasthas to open up their homes, invite the traveling preachers, hold programs, discuss Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, distribute Krishna Prasadam. And so he makes that a statement of absolute. This is one of the main duties, is to open up the home and have programs. Chanting, Pavachan, Prasad.
Guru Maharaj, here, facing all sorts of circumstances, what does this mean?
Well, I think that's self-explanatory. Whatever comes by way of your execution of devotional service, you should not give it up. You should continue to work in the right way. And yeah, you should not be deterred by difficulties.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, difficulties will be there.
Yes, I agree.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madhvi Mataji and Prabhuji, please go ahead. You're on a mute. Good.
Obeisances to your lotus feet, all grace to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. And all grace to you, your Guru Maharaj. This is not a question, but I like to share my personal experience. Like we have been married, how many, 50 years now?
50 years next week, March, going through our ashram. with ups and downs and everything, but the main problem that we understood each other. And yeah, as first point you said about to be a servant of each other, and that's what Satyanarayana probably first point to it. And other thing I see that these days when they're getting together, they're not discussing what their life ahead. They're discussing just a fun to go around and do the funs and that. If that is discussed, I think that helps in our life, that what each other wants and how to go forward and be devotional in a devotional service in a way. So Maharaj, I'll hand over to Prabhu to say more. Let him say something, share something.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. In a Grhastha life, what we have applied, like we became a husband and wife, that's only on a piece of paper, only for legal purpose. So we don't claim, oh, I'm your husband, and she wouldn't say, I'm your wife, so I got right to do this, you know. And second thing, being a servant of each other means maximize to help each other in any situation without any calculation. And the third thing we have applied, we have become a friend of each other. Now, what that means, no secret, no hiding from anything from each other, means being honest. Because I have noticed most marriages are breaking up nowadays. They are not honest each other, and they don't want to become a servant of each other. That's the main key I have noticed.
Yeah, that honesty is the foundation for proper communication, and it's also the foundation for solving difficulties.
Yes.
If something is hidden, then one cannot approach the challenges in life because things remain hidden, and therefore you cannot deal with the situation properly or completely. So communication should be there, discussing, not that communication should be well, in the sense that it should be honest and open and centered around the activities of devotional service and the needs and responsibilities of each other. That's the essence of the communication.
And also, doesn't matter what activities we do, but we keep our goal in the center to help each other, maximize helping each other, and serve the purpose is to serve the Lord best we can.
Yeah, that's the actual goal. The goal for all ashrams is to become Krishna conscious. And the difference in the Grhastha ashram is two people are working together as one and to support each other in that. And there's roles. The wife has her role to play, and the husband has his role to play. Those roles are defined and should be followed. These roles are calculated according to the psychophysical nature of the man and the wife, and applied to all the responsibilities that come. And then things become easy, and then problems, don't really. When problems do arise, and they will arise, and then you have the tools, you have the solution, you have the means to, reveal what is needed in order to overcome these problems, challenges, reverses in life.
And
we have to live by religious principles are the foundations for everything we do.
And whatever the challenges we went through or going through, we always think Lord is trying to teach us something. So what do we learn out of it?
Yeah. We have to learn to be tolerant. Also, we have to learn to be patient. We have to learn to be observant of the other person's needs, like that. If two people are only concerned with their own needs and they have expectations from each other, then they fail to develop a relationship with each other. And because they do that, there's a misunderstanding or between them. And there was an example that where this was told by one senior devotee. A husband and wife are fighting, and it's getting quite intense. So they decided that, well, maybe we should break up. But then the idea came, let's try to save the marriage with some marriage counseling. So they went to a marriage counselor. And then the marriage counselor's business is to probe deeper into what was the underlying, reasons for all of this disharmony and discourse. And finally, it came out when the man spoke, and he said, well, she doesn't love me. It's a fact, she doesn't love me. And then he went on to explain, giving an example. He says she makes bread. When she makes the bread, she cuts the bread, and she gives me the end piece and keeps the other part for herself. So this proves she doesn't love me. Okay. So then, with further probing by the counselor, he understood that she was Italian, and Italians have this understanding that the end piece is the best piece. So from her perspective, she was giving him the best piece, but he didn't understand her. Lack of communication, assumptions, for expectations based on not understanding. When that happens and things break down, and even these small little things, is like, why don't you put the toothpaste cap back on the toothpaste after you use it, And it becomes, a war.
Yeah.
He doesn't care, but she wants to make sure that, it doesn't happen again. And so, little things like that turn into, like big fights. And the essence is lost. So communications. And if we live by religious principles, we learn to deal with difficulties and differences. And we keeping Krishna in the center is where we develop our relationship. I'll be back. Someone is at the door. I have to let them in. Hello? Don't make any mistakes. Just stay focused on getting the offering done. Those boxes are a little big. I said small box. That's not a small box. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay. Thank you.
I like to add something, Maharaj. We also do have a fight, but we fight for the service.
Oh, okay. Who can do the service?
Yeah.
Helping each other.
That's a
To
good
help.
point.
Yeah, to
Yeah.
help each other. Sometimes Madhuri says, "Oh no, I want to do that. You get on with other things,
Yeah, that's okay. But it could also get kind of nasty sometimes. I want to do it. No, I want to do it.
No.
We don't
I can do it better than you can do it. So therefore, I want to do it.
No, we always do it a friendly way, Maharaj. Not so it becomes transcendental rather than material.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
Swaha Mataji, you want to go ahead and ask a question?
Hare Krishna, dear Gurudev, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to you. I have a question, and I will tell you shortly. I am doing matchmaking services, and I introduced two devotees. I was matchmaking of one lady, and I introduced her with one boy, and I know what he was looking also to get married, and the only thing is age gap. That boy is 26 years old, and that lady 7 years older. So I think it's not very right match according to this, but also we are not these bodies. So how does it, like Vedic approach, how it's according to the Vedic knowledge, how it's
Well, there's two factors that are meant to help people decide whether this is a good match or not. Age is a consideration. It's not one of the main factors, but it can be if it's too much of a dichotomy in age. But the other two factors is one is astrological readings and comparing charts in a very, expert way. And the other one, which is the most important way that one determines whether it's a good match or not, someone who knows both of them can say, well, this is going to work. No, this is not going to work. Recommendations from friends, relatives, like that, who know both people, like that. And that's considered to be the most authoritative and most foolproof way of proceeding based on that. Because they can see, generally, and they can give their honest opinion. And you have to find people like that, and they are also available.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gurudev. Yeah, I actually personally know them both, not like very closely, but I know them. So I thought it would be a good match, but just that age gap. But seems like it's working for them, so it should be fine. Astrology also matching quite well. So
The girl is 7 years older than the boy.
yeah.
Well, that's, you might wonder what rasa that is. Is that Madhurya ras or is it Vatsalya ras?
But the most important that it's working for them and they can engage themselves in a Krishna service. I think that I don't know.
You have to understand one thing: women mature faster than men because of biological makeup and social pressures. And men take a long time, especially in this age, to grow up. But women are forced to take more responsibility for their life at an earlier age. So, in the words, a girl of 16 and a boy of 16 is like a mother to a child. Women, yeah, it's just the way it is. So that's why the men should be older. That's one of the reasons.
Yeah.
That's one of the main reasons. You can use the bathroom for that. Yeah, use the bathroom. You want some water?
Yeah, you want some water?
Give him some water to drink. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gurudev.
Anyway, monitor their progress and then try to help them as best you can.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Dear devotees, any more questions or comments? Guru Maharaj, I don't see any more questions, Guru Maharaj. It's past 1 hour.
Yeah.
So I think
Well, that's okay. That's also, I am also on a somewhat tight schedule, so we can stop here.
sure, Guru Maharaj.
And
Thank you so much.
tomorrow, I have an outside engagement around this same time. So I might have to skip tomorrow's class. I'll be back Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I'm traveling on Wednesday, and I think I'll be traveling at the same time the classes. So tomorrow, I don't think I can make it. There is a chance I could do it tomorrow if I can set up my class at another person's house where I'm visiting. But let's see, I'll try. But Wednesday for sure, there won't be any, I won't be able to give the class. But Monday and Tuesday is fixed.
Yes, Guru Maharaj.
We like to continue with this in a very regular series of classes because this is a very, I think, important subject.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, sure. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for your time and association. Thank you.
Okay.
To you.
Thank you very much. My obeisances to all the devotees. Vanchakalpa, Tarubhascha, Vipsinubhevcha, Itaram Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo.
Srila Prabhupada, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna.